shit, yeah, they breath stank. Walk up in the club, dripping like I'm fresh paint. I can see through the facade like
What's going on, fight fans? It's another great day when you love MMA. Welcome back to Mad Matty Fight Talk. Mad Matty once again with Crazy Chris. So UFC 280 just went down and caused a lot of controversy and threw a lot of wrenches into the mix. We had a bunch of good fights where history was made. And, you know, like I said, controversy took place where Islam Makhachev defeated Charles Oliveira, and he is now the new 155 champion. Then you had Aljamain Sterling defending his belt against TJ Dillashaw. And I think one of the biggest, most interesting fights that took place on the fight card was a fight between Sean Omalley and Petr Yan, where Sean Omalley won a split decision and skyrocketed himself 10 positions into the #1 contender fight. So let's start right there. I mean, that fight was very interesting because it did showcase Sean O'Malley's skills. It showed that he is on a #1 top 3 contender status. But a lot of people, a lot of professional athletes, including Joe Rogan, you know, who's seen a lot of fights, thought he lost that fight. And I'm curious as to, because we know that you're a Sean O'Malley dick rider. So I'm curious to think of, to hear what the Sean O'Malley fans thought of that fight.
I called it out. We were talking during that fight, and I called you in between the third round, and I said, hey, it's all going to depend on how they score that first round. Look, in America, under the unified rules that we have in MMA, you guys have to understand you cannot look at the fight as a whole because it's not. You have to break it 5 minutes by 5 minutes by 5 minutes. And what they do in those 5 minutes needs to have a couple of things. Yes, did Yan have some control time? For sure. But the damage, the takedowns, did he take him down and did he pop back up? Those all play into, you know, how the judges score the fight. So I'm not saying that it was a landslide win for Sean Omalley, but I am saying that this is where the confusion comes in, right? This is where people are like, well, he didn't win the whole fight. And you're probably right. He definitely didn't win the second round, but you can't take what Yan did to the second round and dominate that over the other 2 rounds, right? So in America, the way the unified rules work is it's round by round by round. And at the end of that, whoever's score adds up, that's the winner. And unfortunately, 2 of the judges out of 3 of the judges saw that for Sean Omalley. They gave him the first and third round.
There's no doubt. I mean, clearly Sean O'Malley won the fight by split decision. I think that decision was terrible because if we look at the unified rules that you speak of, prioritize criteria, effective striking / grappling. It's not just who has the most significant strikes. Effective aggressiveness. Nowhere in there does it says who causes more damage. And then the third thing is fighting control, or octagon control. Who controls the octagon the most? Which Petr Yan, I would say, did most of those things. It was even in the striking. It was even in the aggressiveness. Petr Yan controlled the octagon better, and he had clearly 6 takedowns. What are we looking at here?
You're taking the second round. You're taking the second round and you're spreading it over the whole round, or the whole fight. Excuse me. Look, the thing that you have to understand is if Sean O'Malley hit him with 3 punches, boom, 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 and Yan takes him down, and Sean reverses the takedown and gets back up, that is not control time. That's not a significant takedown. He did nothing with it but caught 3 punches to the face. And that's where I told you the first round is going to be extremely close. Because even the last exchange where Yan took him down, Sean reversed and took his back. So at the end of that round, actually Sean had more control. And that's where the confusion comes in.
People are saying that Yan took him down and didn't do any damage. He was landing ground and pound strikes, especially in the third round. He was hitting his head off the canvas. So I don't.
But in the third round, he also ate a major knee that split a 3-inch gash above his eye. I mean, and it was pouring blood.
I mean, that's nowhere in there does it say who caused the most damage. Because you could take that one solid strike. That was a great strike. Very good, one significant strike versus the 5 that he ate on the ground, which nobody tends to think that those are a big deal.
If you look at the numbers, Sean O'Malley outstruck him in significant strikes by 35 or 33 strikes. So Yan had 58 significant strikes. Sean O'Malley had 60-something. Or 40 to 60 something. It was a landslide on significant strikes.
So he won. So what you have wasn't a landslide.
Yes. Okay. Let me punch you 30 more times in your face than you punch me, and I guarantee you're gonna take more damage. So listen to me. The thing that it is that everybody's getting confused with is everybody. Look, you call me a Sean Omalley dick rider. Well, what about all the people dick riding jiu-jitsu and wrestling? You cannot just this brings up a good point. Merab versus Jose Aldo. Merab
Exactly.
did absolutely nothing. He did absolutely nothing with any of those takedowns.
He
And
didn't land a
somehow they gave it.
takedown. He
He
didn't
didn't.
even land.
He landed one takedown out of like 28 takedowns.
I don't even think he landed one. I think he was 0 for
But
16.
if you look at Yan versus O'Malley, he only landed 6 out of 20 something takedown attempts.
And had 6
So-
minutes of ground control. Merab went for 16 takedowns, didn't outstrike Aldo, and won the fight. So how can you give O'Malley a fight when you just judged another fight?
3.5 minutes of that was only in the second round. You have to consider the round for what it is. You're saying that he did this over the course of a fight. You have to say what he did in round 1, what he did in round 2, and what he did in round 3. That's how the judges score it. They don't care about the whole fight.
I mean, that's a good point. And that brings me to another point. Look, regardless, congratulations to Sean Omalley. He proved himself. He's a savage. I
No
just
matter
think
whether you think he won or lost, let's be real. He belongs at the top of the division.
Oh yeah, there's no doubt. I'm not saying that's exactly what I'm saying. Congratulations. You earned what you made it to the point where it's controversial. You fought so good and so hard. It doesn't matter what we think, because I thought Max Holloway won the second fight with Volkanovski, but at the end of the day, he's 0-3. So at the end of the day, O'Malley's 1-0 on Petr Yan, and now he's the number 1 contender. Now this brings me to another point. In all sports on planet Earth, probably except for fighting, is the only sport where there is not a scoreboard in the arena showing you what the fuck is going on. To me, that is the craziest thing. Not one championship's the only one where the fighters know they judge it as a whole. So you lose the first round, who gives a fuck? You start making it even in the second, then you know in the third, if you go to work, you're probably going to win the fight. So there's a different mentality for one championship. Now you look at the UFC, Bellator, PFL, all these organizations, there's no scoreboard. There's no real judging criteria. There's these judging, this is what we could look at, but we don't actually know what you're looking at. So to me, they need to start implementing a fucking scoreboard in there. So these guys know, okay, it's 1-1. And all that's going to do is elevate the fights. It's going to make people know and game plan better. Like, okay, I'm down. If I'm down two rounds 0, I need a knockout. I need a finish. And they're going to go for that. Some of these guys strongly believe, like Petr Yan probably thought, I'm winning 2 rounds to none, you know, because you don't know. Nobody knows. It could have felt that way to him. If he saw on the scoreboard, it was 1-1, he's going to bring it. And to me, they just need to have a scoreboard of some sort.
That's a great point. And I do recognize that one does have open scoring, and it does work in fighters' favor. You know, Demetrius Johnson talked about this, saying that to know the score if you're an educated fighter is actually an advantage, because like you said, you know when to push the pedal, or put the pedal to the metal, or hey, I could take a little break on this round. I'm up 2. I'm not trying to get crazy in the third round and get knocked out or get finished, right? So I don't know. The thing about it is the UFC and Dana White don't like that. They don't want that. They want it to be a mystery. They want it to be scored at the end. And I don't understand it. I never will. As a competitor myself, like me and you both have played football, basketball, soccer. I mean, I've even wrestled, and in wrestling, I remember getting taken down and looking up and said, "Oh, I'm cool. I'm up 13-8." You know what I mean? So I know I'm ahead. I don't care about this takedown, right? And that's even in wrestling. So for me, I don't really understand it. I truly believe they should have open scoring. That's just my opinion. I don't know how that factors into everything, but I think it would change the American game up very, very much. And even Japan had some sort of open scoring. Even Japan, when they did Pride and all that, they had a 1 round was for 10 minutes, and there was 1 round and 2 rounds. That was it. You didn't have 3 rounds. You had 1 round, 10 minutes, and you had the second one, which is considered overtime, and 5 minutes, and they scored it as a whole. So there's something going on in America that we're just behind. We're literally 20 years behind on this.
Fight fans, if you guys are listening, push for it, hit the comments. If you guys have other platforms you happen to be hearing this part, let's get some scoreboards into MMA, because that shit's ridiculous. Now, looking at the state of the bantamweight division, we all know Aljamain Sterling absolutely destroyed TJ Dillashaw, so he remains the champion. And TJ Dillashaw dropped to number 5, but the bantamweight has never looked better. You have Aljo, the champion. Now you have Sean O'Malley, number 1. Petr Yan is tied with Merab at 2. You got Corey Sandhagen at 6, Rob Font 7, and the list goes on from there. The top 10's absolutely insane.
You have Marlon Chito at 4. TJ's still at 5 for whatever reason. Corey's at 6. Rob Font at 7, Dominic Cruz at 8, Pedro Munoz went all the way down to 9, Young Dong Song is all the way at 10, which right. Ricky Simone's in at 11. This is a stacked division.
Now, for Sean O'Malley winning this fight, and I mean, whatever, he did win. That puts him in, to me, probably the worst position of his career, because he's looking at some very serious fights. Now, the UFC likes to debate.
I think this is a great position. Go ahead. I'll let you
maybe
finish.
Because O'Malley's love, like he said, you have to listen. I listened to all these post interviews, and O'Malley said, they asked him, what do you said you want to showcase your jiu-jitsu. How do you think about the fight with Sterling? Oh, well, yeah, it's a good matchup. I really liked the fight with Yan because I knew it was going to be a kickboxing fight. So that tells me already he's not confident if he has to fight Sterling. He doesn't even want to fight Sterling from what it sounded like. Then you got to look at who's behind him. Merab is a fucking beast of a grappler. That's not a good fight for him. Then you got Chito Vera, which they could do the rematch there. Corey Sandhagen, that would be an interesting fight. But are they going to really give Corey Sandhagen Sean O'Malley? It's very interesting. I don't know what exactly is going to happen, but what I did hear Dana White say is that Henry Cejudo is most likely getting the next title shot in that division. So
that's perfect. That's perfect in my opinion. And I'll tell you why. Does it slow down the division a little bit? Absolutely it does. But there's some interesting things to be happening here. First of all, give a shout out to my boy Marlon Chito Vera. That dog deserves his day, and he deserves to be fighting for a title. Absolutely destroyed Frankie Edgar and Dominic Cruz. He ran right through Sean O'Malley, and now Sean's ranked above him.
And
I think
he
it's
beat
just
the brakes off of Rob Font.
He beat the shit out of Rob Font. I mean, give this guy his props, dude. He deserves that next title shot. And after Marab's last fucking performance, throw that guy in a trash can, dude. Marlon's way above that guy. But my point is for Sean O'Malley, I'm going to get to the point. My point is for Sean O'Malley, all right? If I'm his coach, I say perfect. We took the #1 spot. We had fought Pedro Munoz, whatever. We fought Petr Yan, right? We beat Petr. Now you're in a position where let Henry Cejudo jump the line. Let him fight the guy you don't even want to fight because stylistically it's shit for you. And if Sean O'Malley say he fights Marab, say he fights Chito again, and he loses, this is the time you want to lose. You don't want to get a title shot too early and lose that title shot because we know in the UFC, it's almost no coming back from that. And a lot of guys have been getting that second chance, but I'm telling you right now, it's so hard in the UFC with all these people, with all these dogs behind you in a stacked division of people like Marab could be next, Marlon could be next, Corey Sandhagen's knocking on the door, Sean O'Malley's knocking on the door. And then, Henry Cejudo is going to come in and shift that lineup again.
I agree with you.
But it makes sense for Sean O'Malley. If I'm his manager, if I'm his coach, I'm like, shit, dude, this is perfect. Now, screw the title shot. Obviously Hunter Campbell will be okay with it. Dana White will be okay with it. Let's fight Marab. If we can do good against Marab, we deserve a title shot. If not, we go back to the drawing board.
This is what I'm thinking. For me, I mean, if I'm Corey Sandhagen, I'm screaming to fight Sean O'Malley. I'm like, bro, I am the #1 contender. Song Yadong was on a hot streak of knocking.
But what about Marlon Vera? Marlon Vera's four.
Well, hold on.
Let
me get into it. Yeah. So Corey Sandhagen, if I'm him, I'm screaming, dude, let me fight this motherfucker, because that's going to be a good stand-up fight. But Corey Sandhagen would have the edge in the grappling, in my opinion. Now, if I'm Chito Vera, I'm definitely asking to fight Sean O'Malley, because honestly, he is, to me, he's probably going to be the guy fighting for the belt. Where it sucks for Marab is he's the training partner of Aljo. So I don't think he wants to fight Aljo. So if I'm Chito Vera, there's already history with Sean O'Malley. So I'm like, dude, let me get the #1 contender spot. Fuck it. Let's Cejudo fight. Because either way, Cejudo and Sterling, that's a great fight. I actually do want to see that. That's going to be very interesting to see what happens there. Win or lose, one of those guys, it doesn't matter. I would like to see that, because honestly, if Cejudo wins, he might just give up the belt anyway, because I think he wants to fight Volkanovski. So if the fight to make, I believe, in that division, and just to wrap it up real quick, is Sean O'Malley and Chito Vera for the #1 contender. But if I'm Corey Sandhagen, I'm definitely either fighting Dillashaw or O'Malley next.
This is how I see it. Sean O'Malley fights Marab because Marab's not going to fight for the belt. It gives Sean time to actually fight at the top levels and fight against these good grapplers. I say let Henry come in and let that chubby midget get his title shot. Whoever wins from that fights Marlon Vera. Now, once Marlon Vera fights for the belt, it frees up Corey Sandhagen, and it frees up the winner of Sean and Marab. So I say that's how you clean up the division. Honestly, TJ Dillashaw's arm's fucked. I had a training partner pop out his shoulder. He was never the same. I think this is the end of TJ's career, to be honest. Dominic Cruz had his nose smashed in from Marlon, and he's looking weathered these days. Let's be honest. Those guys aren't at the top. you know, the other person that's not even been talked about yet is Ricky Simone. I mean, god damn, that guy's a fucking dog. I mean, I'd like to see Ricky Simone fight Merab. I'd like to see Ricky Simone fight a Corey Sandhagen. Give him those bigger fights because that dude definitely deserves it. In my opinion, I say Ricky Simone fights Rob Font, Corey Sandhagen. If you're smart, you sit on the sidelines. You let Henry Cejudo go ahead and fight for the title. Sean O'Malley probably would match up good with Merab or any of those guys as well. And then if you're Marlon Vera, you're sitting and you're saying, hey, I'm not fighting nobody else until I get a title shot.
Or at the end of the day, you just do the rematch with Sean O'Malley and Petr Yan. That's what really should probably happen.
Petr Yan's already asking to leave the UFC. He doesn't
That's
like
not going to
those
happen.
situations.
They're
So
not going to happen.
we'll see. Look, we'll see what happens there. That's my on it. All right, so we're done with the 135 bantamweight division. That division is stacked and backed up. My question is, what happens now that Volkanovski moves away from the featherweight division? Does he back that up by trying to fight Islam? And if you look at the lightweight division, in my opinion, there's not many contenders knocking on that door.
Well, first of all, it's definitely happening. Makhachev's definitely fighting Volkanovski. That's coming out of Dana White's mouth, who doesn't really feed into that shit after fights, but he kind of is like, well, I guess they're fighting. So that's going to happen. That's already in the book. Then they asked him if there's going to be an interim title fight for the featherweight division. He took a little while to think about it. I think there probably is, depending on how this fight goes, but he said no. Now, if you let's look at both divisions, but let's start in the lightweight. Charles Oliveira, you know, I like his attitude. He lost, but he just said, you know, it wasn't my day. It wasn't what I was expecting. Regardless, Islam absolutely dominated that fight. So do I want to see an immediate rematch? Probably not. Islam's going to fight Volkanovski. Now you look at the rest of these guys. Who is the number one contender for lightweight? Dustin Poirier, probably, he doesn't match up well against grapplers, obviously. Justin Gaethje doesn't match up against grapplers. You lost to Oliveira, you lost to Khabib. You're definitely not beating Makhachev. Now, the best fight that you could possibly make in this division for either a number one contender matchup or the number one fight period, or the number one fighter to figure out who that's going to be, is between Beneil Dariush, who put on a fucking hell of a performance on the UFC 280 fight card, and Michael Chandler. Those two guys, I really think are the top of the heat.
No, because there's a guy named Rafael Fiziev. Rafael Fiziev has been a dog, and he's been knocking on that door for a long time. He's right behind Beneil. I think that if you want to get somebody really, let's be real. After the Volko fights Islam, Beneil should definitely, he's earned that spot. He should get the next title shot. Then you do Michael Chandler versus Rafael Fiziev for the next contender. That's my opinion.
Man, I like Rafael Fiziev a lot. I love his striking. His
But
ground,
right now,
his ground game is, to me, against a high level grappler. He took on an old RDA.
He's a bigger version of Petr Yan. He's a bigger version of Petr Yan. Basically the same people.
If his grappling is as good as his striking, or if he can, that would be a good test. I wouldn't mind seeing Chandler versus Fiziev.
But Chandler's fighting Poirier. So how do we gauge that? Because Gaethje's kind of on the sideline right now as well.
Yeah, or you match him up with Justin Gaethje. I mean, because look, Michael Chandler, if he gets through Poirier, which that fight is going to be absolutely insane, to me, he's definitely up there for the number one contender spot. Now, it just depends on what happens in that Poirier fight. I'm going to be real here. Dustin Poirier has been fighting for a long time, and he got all this hype for beating McGregor, but he does not match up well with guys like Makhachev, Khabib, and Oliveira. He's not getting past somebody on a high-level grappling. He's a black belt in jiu-jitsu. Good for you. I'm not being a hater because I like Dustin Poirier.
At this point, he's won his interim belt, but at this point in his career, he's just a gatekeeper, and that's no disrespect to him. But like you said, at a high level of grappling, he's already lost to Charles. He's already got submitted by Khabib. I mean, do we really want to see Islam fight Poirier? Probably not. I don't
think anybody wants to see that. I think what I would want to see is Charles Oliveira get a win, because he's going to fight in Rio, is what he said. So hopefully that happens, and get him right back into contention. Because look.
Do you think a fight with Rafael Fiziev and Charles Oliveira would make sense?
I don't think that'd be fair for Fiziev, because I think Oliveira's grappling is so high level. I mean, Fiziev could definitely knock him out, but if he doesn't knock him out and Oliveira fixes what he needs to, because look,
if you look at it, let's go down the list real quick. I mean, 15 is Drew Dober, who's been submitted by all the top guys. Tony Ferguson on a 4-5 fight losing streak. Conor McGregor hasn't fought in 2 years. Dan Hooker is on a 4-fight losing streak. I mean, there's not a lot of contenders.
I'm not looking past the top 10, because at number 9, look, Jalen Turner to me still needs some fights, but Arman Sakorian, because Gamrot lost, if I'm Arman, I'm asking for a big fight next. Somebody like Dariush, somebody like Fiziev.
Absolutely.
And because if he gets, he's to me, that fight with Gamrot was so good. You're one fight away from being in a title fight. That kid is a beast. And he already fought Islam and they went to a decision. So that would be a really, really good fight. I would be asking, if I'm Secorian, I would be asking for Oliveira.
The thing that troubles me though is number 7 is Rafael Dos Anjos, and Dos Anjos already said he's not interested in running for the title anymore. When he lost Fiziev, he got TKO'd. He said he wants to fight fights that make sense. So this guy's in the top 10 and he's holding a spot that doesn't make sense.
And you know why he's there? It's because the UFC is smart. They're gonna use him to fight everybody that's below him. All right, if you get past RDA, then you're solid. I mean, RDA doesn't give a fuck. But
that's my point. I mean, we had Dustin Poirier, who's fought for the belt 3 times because he has an interim. We had Justin Gaethje lose 2 times for the belt. He also had an interim belt, so he's an ex-interim champion.
Charles.
Beneil's the only one that I'd like to see get a title shot. And Michael Chandler had his shot. Charles is an ex-champion.
Chandler and Poirier are gonna fight. I forgot about this.
Let me listen. Hold on. Let me get my point across. Out of 10 spots, Charles ex-champion, Dustin ex-champion, Justin ex-champion, Michael's already fought for the belt, and Rafael's an ex-champion. That's 5 out of the top 10 that are ex-champions. I don't want to see these fucking guys fighting for belts anymore.
Well, if you're at the top 5, you deserve it. Michael Chandler is still in his prime to me, and he's
Michael solid. Chandler has another shot because he never became a champion.
Look, so Beneil Dariush, Arman Secorian, and Charles Oliveira have the best styles. If Charles can fix his stand-up and not just let people crack him in the jaw, they have the best styles of matching up with Islam. It's not about who I want to see.
So let's hear this. After the Michael Chandler and Poirier, after Islam and Volkanovski, who gets the next title shot? Does Beneil get the next title shot?
Beneil Dariush is on a 9-fight win streak. He definitely gets it.
Now this is my question about. Let's go down to the featherweight division.
All right.
We have Max Holloway still at number 1. Yair Rodriguez knocking on the door. Brian Ortega, Josh Emmett, Calvin Kattar, Arnold Allen. And Chan Sung Jung is basically retired at number 7. He said he's not fighting.
I'll tell you right here.
Giga and Bryson Mitchell.
Here. You got Kattar taking on Arnold Allen, which I think Cater's going to fucking dismantle Allen.
But so this is my question, though. After Yair won and Josh Emmett won, after Volko's done with his fight, who then fights for the title? Because those guys are both on the door.
Well, listen, they're not fighting till March. You set up Yair Rodriguez and Josh Emmett because Josh Emmett, to me, you want a razor sharp fight against Kattar, which I thought you lost.
So close, such a great fight, really close and competitive.
Max Holloway and Ortega, unfortunately for them, they're definitely not getting another title shot as long as Volkanovski's the champion. So all you can do is pray that either Yair Rodriguez, who should be fighting either the winner of Allen and Kattar to be the number 1 contender, because Max did beat Yair, or Josh Emmett versus Yair Rodriguez. Either way, Yair Rodriguez is the one that you need to beat to get into the title shot. Because if not, he's definitely next in my book. Giga just got his ass beat from Kattar, and he hasn't fought since because he got hurt. The Korean Zombie, not impressive. Bryce Mitchell and what the fuck is his name? Ilia Topuria. Dude, those guys, that could be your number 1 contender soon. And even
Ilia Topuria
Evlov.
Ilia Topuria is one of my favorite up-and-comers right now. I think that kid has a great potential in the future. My thing is, Arnold Allen is on a 7-fight winning streak. If this guy gets past Calvin Kattar, there's no doubt in my mind he deserves the next title shot. No. But he's on a massive winning streak, man. You have to look into this kid. He's been doing phenomenal for 4 or 5 years now. He hasn't lost a fight. So in my opinion, you're right. You got to get Yair and Josh Emmett out of the way. That will actually truly get you the next contender. But Arnold Allen, if he gets past Kattar, that guy's knocking on the door.
You're not the number 1 contender. No, you still need to. You're still a fight or 2 fights away.
Bryce, what about Giga? What about Bryson Mitchell? What about
Giga?
Giga, what about Movzar? He's even at number 10.
Yeah, that's a great fight right there. Giga Chikadze versus Movzar Evlov. That's a great fight because Giga just got fucking handled from Kattar. Kattar is really in the driver's seat if he wins this fight to fight somebody to be in the next and to be the number 1 contender. Yair Rodriguez is the number 1 contender in that division. If they're not doing an interim fight, he is the number 1 contender. If I'm anybody below him, I'm asking to fight him or Max Holloway. Because if you beat Max, look, Max's only problem is losing to Volkanovski. Everybody else in that division, he is going to fuck them up. So if you can get past Max.
There's also Well, there's also the guy who's been in the dark that not a lot of people are giving credit to is Sadiq Yusuff, bro. That brother right there from Africa he's an absolute phenomenon at 145 right now.
I like him, but he still needs to grow. He still has some big fights he needs to get
Are you
through.
not impressed? I mean, my thing is I'm impressed with his stand-up. I'm impressed. I'm impressed with him on his stand-up and his composure. What worries me is, again, when you get into these man, when you're talking about how fast Volkanovski looked in his last fight against Max, how dominant he went in there. It was absolutely crazy. It blew me and you away. Honestly, we were both sitting there dumbfounded. To be
completely honest, I like Sadiq Yusuff a lot. I think he is going to be a really good fighter. Like, he already is a great fighter, but I think he's going to be really good soon. But to me, Ilia Topuria has more tools in the bag to be in the top 3 than he does.
Right.
And
right.
he did have a big fight against Giga Chikadze. They got scratched.
Do you think Sadiq could get past a guy like Bryson Mitchell or somebody who stands up and who's a big fighter like Giga? Do you think that he could break that top 10
Well, he was supposed to fight Giga, and that would have been a good tale of what was going to happen, because everybody thought Giga Chikadze should have fought Volkanovski when Max got hurt instead of Korean Zombie. And guess what? Calvin Kattar fought him and beat the fuck out of him. So you got to remember that was not that long ago, and he's been hurt and he hasn't fought since. So Giga also needs to come back and get a fight. He's not in the top 5 yet. If I'm any of these guys, if I'm Calvin Kattar and Arnold Allen, especially if I'm Calvin Kattar and I win, I'm asking to fight Max Holloway again, because that would be an interesting fight to see if he can prove himself that he looks really good since that fight.
If I'm Calvin Kattar's manager, we're avoiding Max Holloway like the plague. That dude has been he is every meaning of a gatekeeper right now. No offense to Max Holloway, that's the brother from Hawaii. I appreciate you, big dog, but there's no way.
But
honestly,
dude, you're 0-3.
There's no way he's gonna be. Every dog has their number, man, and Volko has his number. He's not gonna beat
the second
Volko.
fight he should have won. He got robbed, and it doesn't matter that I'm saying that, because realistically, you're 0-3. It doesn't make sense to have you fight Volkanovski unless nobody can get past you. Then yes, you just keep trying, I guess. But other than that, Yair Rodriguez and possibly Josh Emmett should be fighting for the number 1 contender spot, or Yair Rodriguez versus the winner of Kattar and Allen. To me, that's the next.
I think Yair Rodriguez and Josh Emmett, they fight while this gets settled. I think Max Holloway needs to fight somebody like, because right now, like Brian Ortega, I don't want to see him fight that guy. I don't want to see him beat up Calvin Kattar. I don't want to see him beat up Chan Sung Jung.
Well, who do you have as the number 1 contender for when Volkanovski and Makhachev get done?
I truly believe Yair and Josh Emmett have to fight. I'm not convinced that Josh Emmett is a contender. And Yair's fight against Max Holloway blew me the fuck away, man. I think that kid has some serious potential to put these guys away at the top level. So
I think he's a very bad matchup for Volkanovski. I honestly wouldn't just mind him seeing him fight next. So
but he has to get another win. His last fight was against Max and he lost, if I'm not mistaken. So I think Yair versus Josh. I know it's not fair to Josh Emmett. He's done a lot. He's been in this fucking business a long time. But brother, when you can't get a title shot off of a razor thin split decision.
Yeah, and that's how good Yair is to me, is that even losing to Max the way he did, it wasn't like he just got landslide beat. He looked so good in that fight that I wouldn't mind seeing him fight for the belt.
To be honest, when both guys get pulled away from on a stretcher and they're both going to the hospital, there's no fucking loser in that fight. Both of those guys won that fight.
Max walked away. He walked over to Yair's ambulance and said, "Hey, let's take a picture."
He's such a psychopath, bro.
Right.
That guy. But I love Max Holloway, but I think Yair Rodriguez definitely and Josh Emmett need to clean that up. And again, this is my opinion. If Arnold gets past Calvin Kattar, which I believe he will, he definitely deserves that title shot on the next title shot after those two guys get ironed out.
All right, guys. Well, thanks for watching our video. Hit us in the comments. Let us know what you guys think should be going down in this division. Hit the bell icon to be notified when we drop more content. And yeah, man, we'll see you guys on the next one.
Keep your guys' eye out. Keep your guys' eye out for Kobe versus Hamzat. That shit's going to be a banger.
Peace.
Haters talking shit, yeah, they bread stank. Walk up in the club dripping like I'm fresh paint. I can see through the facade like an